presentation up here.
We're just going live. This is Senate Transportation Committee. It's Thursday, February 8th. We're going to be talking about the Vermont local roads and municipal mitigation assistance program this morning. We have folks from the Agency of Transportation with us. First up is Mr. Eaton from the agency, and as soon as you get your presentation up, you can introduce yourself for the record and let us know. And then we probably have your presentation.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Wow. We got Joel's. Are they two different presentations?
Yeah. One sec.
Being on two committees, I'm like,
There we go.
I was at the wrong committee.
Yeah, we did it. For the record, my name is Todd Eaton. I'm the branch manager for Vermont Local Roads. And I appreciate the opportunity to share how Vermont Local Roads helps municipalities with resiliency within their roadway networks in Vermont. Vermont Local Roads is a small program. It's just myself and Holly Hayden, who is our program coordinator. As you see here, our mission and our vision is to promote, resiliency and also improved roadway networks throughout Vermont through training, technical assistance, and information exchange. Primarily, we focus a lot of our attention on training, hosting, training opportunities all over the state that has anything to do with, the wide range of managing roadway networks. Rather, it's people management, road crew management. Obviously civil engineering techniques and concepts and principles, as well as technical assistance, which primarily is something that I fulfill, where I'll go out to a municipality and help them with whatever issue it might be. Most recently, it's probably in spending a lot of time helping municipalities get set up with their ELDT or entry level driver training for CDL. So there's I don't have numbers in front of me, but I remember the last opportunity that we had to quantify that was we've saved municipalities somewhere in the vicinity of $500,000 in last year, just being able to help them set that up rather than sending new employees off to a school, which is, in my opinion, a greater risk to them. Here's a basic breakdown of our budget as it comes. We get 210 from the FHWA that was increased by $60,000 a couple years ago as a result of the bipartisan infrastructure law, and that was to help us provide municipalities with more opportunities and understanding as far as approaching and pursuing grants through the different federal opportunities. And through that, the way that we've helped is basically, again, through just technical assistance and some training opportunities to help municipalities understand how to organize themselves, prioritize steps as far as pursuing different grant opportunities, and so on and so forth.
And where in the book is your program?
Is sections 14 to 21. I think we're page 20.
What section?
In the white book.
What section? What under what program are they? I just wonder kind of where you're situated.
That I'm not certain.
14 is town highway bridges, structures. Is there like a town highway program? Like what part of the agency or
we're within finance and administration,
okay.
But yeah. Okay. So I apologize.
That's fine. So it's probably just within the finance and management.
Yeah.
Because there's just two.
And so we don't have any funds that directly go to municipalities to help them with any type of mitigation or resiliency planning, except through how I've described as far as technical assistance and our training opportunities. This year we do have 2 grant opportunities that should be advertised sometime by the end of this month, and these are focused on highway safety. And temporary traffic control safety. One,
Speed cameras?
not cameras, but no, this is for temporary traffic
Yeah.
control. So I know so just for instance, the town I live in is Marshfield. There's very often I go and I find the road crew doing something, necessary, obviously out on the road, their general maintenance, but they have not been able to afford the appropriate sign package to be in compliance with any kind of OSHA expectations. So it's a huge liability if either OSHA showed up or if there was some sort of incident on their, one of their temporary traffic control situations. So the one grant program is going to provide 4 towns per year, one in each quarter of the state, funding for a temporary traffic control device, the entire package that includes cones, signs, illuminated stop slow paddles so that they can even be used at night more safely.
Senator Mazza likes those illuminated stop.
I think they're pretty snazzy myself, so that
They have like LED lights around.
Yes,
them.
yes.
Yeah,
so
we talked about requiring them at one point,
yeah.
but we didn't.
Yeah, some states do. I believe Virginia is one, but even during the daytime, they greatly increase visibility, things like that.
Yeah.
And so
The contractors thought it would be too expensive. If I remember.
they always do. But
Yeah.
the other grant opportunity is to provide $10,000 to one municipality per year toward the purchase of some type of temporary traffic control lighting. And that can be used in conjunction with other safety grants that are available to municipalities in the state, and they can also partner through some sort of municipal agreement with their neighbor so that they could, really drive down the cost and make it accessible to purchase some of these, which so Marshfield, just to use them as an example, it's a 3-man crew. They go out and they set some type of temporary traffic control. If they need flaggers for whatever situation that they're in, they already now they can't do the work. And so that these temporary traffic control lights just totally eliminate that challenge for them. But
So it sounds like you started out on a smaller scope, but you're getting into a bigger scope of what you do, which is great. How does a call get directed to you? How all of a sudden, oh gosh, you better be calling Toddy. So what would happen? How's that happen?
Any number of different ways. So we manage a listserv, which just about every municipality has some type of contact, whether it's the road foreman, it's primarily road foreman, but often town managers, town administrators are on that as well. So they can post a question that's in general on that, but that's also a form of contact to us directly.
More about what would they be looking for you? Say, oh no, you got the wrong department. You got to call Todd. I mean, so that is just about safety stuff and trying to set up. And I mean, you're interactive with them.
Yes, yeah. So it oftentimes it's in conjunction with some of the Joel's team as far as like better roads, things like that. So we assist with that oftentimes. There's other programs that would refer, and it is generally, there's a highway challenge, some sort of problem solving that they're trying to figure out. Either if it's how are we going to fund this, what should we do here, things like that. There's several other organizations within the state that would refer us.
Available for this.
And they would refer us, knowing that we are the ones that are specifically focused on technical assistance to municipalities.
And was this new, like when we started creating the local town road permits? Did the agency create the local roads program?
Local roads, no. Local roads was in existence since the 80s, and so prior to, I'm going to forget which year, but it's been about 12 years since it's been within the AOT. Prior to that, it was at St. Michael's College. So.
And I was just helping out, sorry.
No, you're
I was just helping with everything with roads, just like what's a good road crown ratio. Or
exactly,
like
yeah.
But now it's more focused on, but maybe it's not more focused on resilience and runoff and things like that.
Well, all of that feeds into resilience. So, I mean, the MRGP, here, for instance, if it's since the last iteration of the town road and bridge standards, all of those things have been brought to alignment as far as whatever we're suggesting. So there's the first 3 levels of the town road and bridge standards. When a municipality has the opportunity to sign off on that, Obviously, for anything hydrologically connected due to the MRGP, they're required to come into compliance with all of those standards. They have the option to sign on to that for every other road segment. And that's something we encourage because of road resiliency. If you follow all of these different best management practices, your roads are going to last better, and they're going to weather storms much better than they may otherwise. And that anecdotally, we have seen a lot of success in road foremen that have started utilizing all of those best management practices on all road segments. They're seeing that in real life. And so Evelyn Boardman took over after Jim Ryan retired as the manager of the Municipal General Roads Permit. And so her and I, one of the first things that we partnered together to do was to promote a research project that is now out to bid to quantify the value of putting all of those best management practices using the data that we've collected from the July storm. Because there was a lot of road foremen that were telling me that, yeah, we're running around trying to fix all of these different areas that have popped up as a result of that, but that road would have been a huge issue if I hadn't have, utilized Better Roads funds to fix that like you guys have trained us to. And so we want to, have something that there's like a quantifiable data that we can then give the road foreman, because one of the things that I found, especially with some of the younger road foremen, taking over for, retiring, or other guys that have moved on, one of the challenges that they're finding is, how do I communicate to my select board the value of what I'm suggesting?
Right.
And
So I know when that permit came out, a lot of road foremen, like when I was on the select board in Marshfield, they were like, oh, this is going to be a huge problem, and they're going to make us do stuff that we don't want to do. But I think as it came out and they realized it's just good roads, they were happier about it. At first they were like, oh, this is something that some green sneaker environmentalist wants us to do. But
and the challenge is finding funding, but if you can quantify and show that it's worth spending the money now because it's going to save us money in the long run, then it's so. I mean, Hollister Hill is going to be a good example of that coming this weekend as temperatures rise and we get a little bit of rain consistently.
Yeah, and we built these roads. Some roads, like that road's just like straight downhill. These other ones. Okay, well, good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Any questions, Senator Mazza?
No, good, thank you.
Sorry, we're a little short from our full contingent of senators. Senator Kitchell has a big bill that she's presenting. She's trying to get all the thing figured out. She has to vote that we're voting on the floor, so she's doing that. Senator Chinden should be back from across the street.
All set?
Yeah, go ahead.
Excellent. Good morning. Good morning, Senator Mazza.
Morning.
For the record, my name is Joel Perigo. I am V-Trans Municipal Assistance Program Manager. So as Todd was mentioning, we partner with Vermont Local Roads at times for technical assistance purposes, but this is sort of the money side of things, the grant programs that we provide to municipalities, specifically under the Municipal Mitigation Program, which houses three distinct and various grant programs, both state and federally funded. So I can just break down those. Oh, and one thing I did look up Todd's program when we were speaking there. It's tab 21 in the book for Vermont Local Roads.
They do have their own.
Yes. Reminded me of.
Looks like Senator Ingalls' highway up there.
Yeah. No, that's the interstate. That's the interstate.
Well, that's your interstate up there, yeah.
Yeah. And And then municipal mitigation actually shows up on tab 22, but it's not very informative in the way that it shows up. So this presentation will be a good reference for that purpose. So under tab 22 municipal mitigation, you'll see an overall number of 7.1 and change. And so the first program that comes out of that is the Better Roads program. This program has existed for a long time now. I don't know how many years, but similar to what Todd was saying with Vermont Local Roads, at one time Better Roads was with a nonprofit, and it moved over to V-Trans, I think in 2013, I believe. So Better Roads has been supported by primarily T-bill funds or T-funds in the past, but when the Clean Water Fund came around the last few years, we've also received quite a bit of money through Clean Water bill as well, to the Clean Water Fund. This year, there's a proposal for 2.4 million total in Better Roads. 440 of that would come out of the T funds and 2 million from the Clean Water funds. Out of that 2 million, 1 million would be for implementation practices related to MRGP requirements, and the other million would be for road erosion inventories, also an MRGP requirement. When the permit reauthorized last January, there was updates to the methodology of inventorying roads. So a lot of towns are going to have to go out and re-inventory certain segments of roads.
What does that mean to fund inventory?
It's an inventory of their hydrologically connected road segments, going out and looking at the crown of the road, the shoulders, the high berms, the ditching, cross culverts.
That all and sending it in to the city.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And that's part of the permit. So that's with DEC, of course. This is the funding side of that.
Is that something we're expecting all towns to do on every 5-10 year basis or something?
So that's dictated by the permit itself, and the permit's a 5-year cycle. So the first 5-year cycle, they had to do an initial inventory. This one had a slight update to it. And so I don't have the numbers, but I think some towns have a lot more inventory updates to do than others. I don't have figures, but you reminded me of something and I lost it there for a second. So,
but that's the town has like an expense to go out, pay somebody to go.
Exactly. Some towns are capable of doing it themselves. A lot of them are leaning on the RPCs to assist in that effort.
Who has the final approval of the project? Who makes the final decision?
On what?
On the grant?
Yeah.
On the grant itself?
Yeah,
So,
to make sure they're doing exactly what they asked for.
so that's more on the permit side of things. We're funding the work that they're doing, but ultimately that all has to be submitted to DEC and they approve the inventory part of it.
Okay, thank you.
The deliverable for us to provide them the funding is the inventory that they produce. So
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joel, I was just kind of curious about the rocks that are in these ditches. Are they always made to stay there almost like a base cover, and then as those silt in and all that, you'll just come in and scoop out the silt and leave the rock? Or is that some point in time ever gonna have to?
I think there's different sort of mentality around that from town to town. I think most towns in Vermont are basically letting them run their useful life and then just totally cleaning them out and replacing the stone. There is some technology out there to clean them out. I mean, blowing the leaves out in the fall and things like that definitely helps. But over time, they're going to silt in, and there's not really much you can do about that.
So just take them out and start over.
Yeah. And actually, part of what Todd's doing in that research project is looking at things like that. What is the useful life of a stone line ditch, and what's the cost of that, the replacement cost, those sorts of things. How much time do you expect to get out of them?
And so I think Senator Ingalls was looking at your next slide.
Yeah.
That ditch. So when they go out however many years and they dig that all up and they just will dump that somewhere, there's no way, is there a way to like reuse? Because I hear a lot about the quarries are shutting, it's more and more difficult, or you have to truck this rock further and further. Is there a way to reuse that rock? Like,
I don't know that I can. Maybe Todd's got a sense of that.
So there are grant programs that have helped municipalities buy screens And so that's one way. If it's a technique challenge as far as rather you can, under the permit, you can leave the stone in place, allow it to silt in, excavate down to the surface elevation of where the stone has been placed and then reseed that. You can't, that is allowable. But it can be technique as far as, somebody in an excavator actually doing that work. It can be actually harder than just pulling it out.
Yeah, right.
Recycling it, screening it through, letting the rain wash it in a stockpile, and then, leaving that maybe for a year and then using it for the following year.
So the second program under municipal litigation is the grants and aid program. That program was created with the passing of the Clean Water Bill. And Vermont, V-Trans took that program over from DEC. I think we're in our third or fourth fiscal year with that now. So wholly funded by Clean Water Funds. $3 million this year's proposed. These projects are specific to hydrologically connected segments. And it's a formula-based grant program. So each year we put out a solicitation, ask towns if they want to participate in that fiscal year. They indicate so by a letter of intent, and based on that, there's a formula that we run based on the number of segments they have versus the rest of the state, and they get a chunk of money. Last year in fiscal year 24, we had 230 of the 260 municipalities covered by the MRGP participate. I think our record was 236 a few years ago. So
what was still 250?
260 are covered by the PERN. So that's like the villages. Everything is included in that 260.
And what is the road program? I should know this. Where by formula the state sends money.
That's the town highway aid
Town
program.
highway aid. Okay.
Yeah, and these were just some pictures that were funded as part of projects. The South Burlington project, actually, I don't know if it was funded with, it might have been the municipal highway stormwater program, which I haven't touched on yet, but obviously a larger project than what you might see in otherwise. But your typical better roads and grants and aid projects are, cross culvert, stone line ditching, proper crown, removal of roadsides, berms, things of that nature, stone check dams, things like that. And so the third and final program that falls under municipal mitigation is the municipal highway and stormwater program, which is federally funded. So these are our federal highway funds that we flex into what becomes a TEA, transportation alternatives eligible activity, and it says environmental mitigation, and there's some enabling legislation that goes along with it. But we've been able to work with federal highway to get determinations that everything from sand and salt sheds to stormwater detention basins and gravel wetlands and rain gardens and things of that nature are eligible under this program. So our most frequent customers in that program are sort of the MS4 communities like South Burlington and things like that. But we have had some other towns that have built larger culverts that are eroding dramatically, things like that. So, and then the final piece of the municipal.
Sorry.
Yep.
But is that money by formula from the feds, or do we apply for the money and say these are the projects we want to do?
No, this is funding that comes out of our block grant funding that V-Trans proposes to put into this program. So it's money that we could be using for bridges and pavement and things like that, but instead we put it through this program, and we put out a solicitation, and municipalities apply for that funding.
What does that picture there represent? What is that?
That's a stormwater detention area. So the water flows into there one way or another, whether it's directly off the road or can't really see in this one, but and then the water just sits there and settles out, and the silt sits in the rocks, and the water as it comes up, it goes through these I don't know what you call them. I'm not
they're almost like a well.
Right, exactly. That allows the water to get out. So, yeah, this is
It's just meant to slow it down. And,
exactly.
Get the silt out
get
of
the
it.
silt out of the water. Right. Yep. And then the final piece under the municipal mitigation program is our stormwater utility fees that V-Trans pays to South Burlington, Colchester, Burlington, St. Albans, Williston, St. Albans Town, and Shelburne.
So why is that? Can you remind me?
Because we have roads within those municipalities that contribute to the stormwater. And so, like I believe Senator Mazza has talked about in the past, he gets a bill for it. So do we as the state on our roads.
And that's because of that area.
They've established,
Stormwater for all the privately owned and publicly owned infrastructure.
Right. And any kind of impermeable surface.
Exactly.
What's that? It's like a district.
MTAP, no,
But if you're in that,
yeah,
it's almost like its own municipality that assesses a fee whether if you have that impermeable surface.
right. And these are our fees, our contributions. And then just a few more pictures of some projects we completed over the last few years. MS4 communities, yeah. Brownington, on the left side of the screen was a slope stabilization project along the Willoughby River. Brandon in the middle is was a rain garden project. Chester is the Popple Dungeon bridge replacement, and then Pittsfield salt shed.
So the bridge replacement, why would it be in this program? Because it was.
Probably, I'm guessing, I think that what we had there was an old culvert that was failing and causing a lot of erosion and
It kind of restores the stream.
exactly,
Right?
yep.
How far does the flooding, catastrophic flooding that we've been experiencing set us back on our goals of clean? I mean, it must wreak havoc.
On clean water,
Yeah.
I don't know that I could necessarily answer that question,
It's
but
just wreak havoc.
yeah, and actually, a good point, because one thing and I don't know if you've spoken with, I think it's Ashley Atkins is providing all the testimony on our emergency efforts from this past storm, but baked into that is all of the grants that we're providing to municipalities for, restoration and for those and I just quick number that I pulled out yesterday, because we're speaking with the House tomorrow. I think we're at like 86 grants across the state. And then I would say on the very, very low side, estimates were in the $9.5 million. We're as much as, we happened in July, but we're only 10% of the way through working with the towns, getting all the documentation in place to get the grants executed to pay them on those. I think that we're going to be much more than that in the end. And that's mostly 100% federally funded in that case. So,
Statement probably more than anything, but you see a lot of this work going on, and I mean, we're not just doing this work just to do the work. I mean, it's got to be making a difference in a normal world. I mean, the levels of whatever monitoring that happens, we must be seeing something for all the work, for all the effort and money that we're spending.
Yep, and again, more of a question probably for DEC, but they do put out their clean water investment report annually.
Yeah.
And it speaks to those efforts of, what are we getting for our money here? What it doesn't cover is the things like Todd was talking about, the resiliency of these back roads, getting the water off the roads so that in high rain events, we aren't losing culverts, we're not losing ditches, we're not rebuilding those. A lot of those little things add up over time. And that research project he's looking into is going to help quantify those measures.
Yeah, I know you can't answer this, but I'd be curious to see year to year what happened last year, this year at this time statewide on our cost of everything has to be down considerably, from salt to plowing to it would be interesting to find the update of like I said, year to year, because we certainly haven't done any snow plowing or heavy salt usage, and but that's a question I know you can't answer, but
Yeah. Somebody else would have to
Right,
jump in on that one.
Maintenance.
You'd be surprised at how much salt you use on a small snow event or an ice event.
Right, sometimes just have a large temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they talk to your towns and they say, hey, it doesn't matter whether we get a foot or we get a half an inch. The material's still going on.
Yeah.
Right. The cost is the same.
Right.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Well, cool.
Any other questions?
No.
No, I mean,
How did these two guys get right into submission?
no, it's good. I think it's sometimes it's hard to quantify because there's like, how do you quantify the road that did get washed out because we get better ditches.
Right.
Things like that.
Right, and that's where this research project is headed.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Did you pass?
Oh, yeah, she did.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
13 points off on a 20. Probably shouldn't say that on YouTube, sorry. But she did get a passport, so she's-
Okay, well, we have a little bit of a break. So, we'll adjourn for a break until we come back. Talk to Anthea, but maybe we can see if we can get Anthea a little earlier.
I can do that.
I can mention
That's
that
the test, Senator Chittenden?